One summer moment can change a child's life. Through Toys for Tots Give and Go initiative, your support provides books, games, toys, and outdoor adventures that spark curiosity, creativity, and a love of nature. Whether it's fishing, learning a new sport, reading under a tree, or playing with friends, these moments build confidence and lifelong memories. For too many children, those moments never come. You can help change that this summer. Visit toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots, delivering hope beyond the holidays.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
You are now diving into the deep end of the Stone Zone. And if you're a political junkie like me, you're focused on South Carolina today, where there are two big nationally followed primaries. The most important one, of course, is where Senator Lindsey Graham faces off against Pastor Mark Lynch for the U.S. Senate seat. The other one is a race in which fiery pro-Trump Congresswoman Nancy Mace faces Trump-endorsed South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott and longtime South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. The thing to remember about South Carolina is that their Republican primary is what is known as an open primary, meaning one does not have to be a registered Republican to vote in that particular election. One can be a Republican, a Democrat, or neither one, someone of no party at all. And that affords an enormous advantage to Lindsey Graham. Many of my Trump-supporting friends would like to see Lindsey Graham be defeated tonight. That wouldn't upset me either, although I think because of a very large crossover vote, there's not much competition for the Democrat nomination, the state being overwhelmingly now a Republican bastion. The odds still with Lindsey Graham. Saw the senator in Washington, D.C. in the Four Seasons Hotel about, 3 weeks ago. He was so drunk he could barely stand up. I do recall once at Mar-a-Lago, I guess it was last summer, when I went to an outdoor reception by the swimming pool, and my wife was with me, and there was Lindsey Graham holding forth with his back to the pool, maybe 2 feet away from the pool. I guess I got a rather devilish grin on my face. My wife looked at me and said, "Don't even think about it." I knew, of course, that if I tossed the senator into the pool, that the Secret Service would probably not only throw me out immediately, but ban me from Mar-a-Lago for life, which probably wouldn't have been worth it. But I must admit, the idea did cross my mind. It's interesting because South Carolina's open primary has a long tradition. See, in 1964, Democrat Senator J. Strom Thurmond, who had also served as governor of South Carolina, in the middle of his 6-year term, decided to switch parties in order to support Barry Goldwater as the Republican nominee for president. Now, the Senator Thurmond could have just finished out the balance of his 6-year term, the second 3 years of his term, with the R designation after his name, but Thurmond, who was a man of deep principle, insisted that it would be unfair to the voters of South Carolina for him to have been elected as a Democrat and then serve as a Republican. So he insisted on resigning his Senate seat, creating a vacancy, and then running in the Republican primary for the Republican nomination for a new election to win the seat. Of course, tens of thousands of conservative Democrats, something that doesn't exist anymore, crossed over into the then fairly anemic and small South Carolina Republican Party primary to nominate Thurmond, who was then reelected to the U.S. Senate. So the open primary has a long tradition in South Carolina. I'll be glued to the TV tonight to see how this particular race comes out. President Trump has endorsed Pamela Abbott, the current lieutenant governor, as the current governor of South Carolina, and those are probably strong indicators. Nancy Mace is a fiery candidate, but the odds are against her. On the other hand, she is a fighter. We'll be watching these races very carefully. President Donald Trump made history Monday night, becoming the first sitting president ever to attend an NBA Finals game. President Trump appeared at Madison Square Garden for Game 3 between the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs, a major sports moment, as the Knicks have not been in this position for 27 years. That made it even bigger by the presence of the commander-in-chief. The president, long familiar to New York sports fans and once a regular courtside presence at Knicks games, was met with a mix of cheers and boos as he arrived. It is, after all, Manhattan. Inside the arena, some fans booed when he was shown on the Jumbotron during the national anthem, but the moment was later answered by chants of USA from the many New York Patriots in attendance in the audience. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver noted before tip-off that Trump has long been a fixture at Madison Square Garden, saying he used to have courtside seats and was there all the time. Outside the arena, of course, left-wing protesters tried to turn the night political, carrying anti-Trump songs and signs and shouting vulgar chants. But inside, the night belonged to basketball, patriotism, and a president who once again showed no fear as he walked into potentially hostile territory. Security was heightened for the event, with the Knicks organization warning fans ahead of time about strict screening procedures and a no-bag policy. As for the game, there would be no Knicks coronation in New York. The Spurs beat the Knicks 115-111, handing New York its first loss after an incredible 13 straight playoff wins. Perhaps that was some karma for the rude Knicks fans who had the audacity to boo their president, but the Knicks will have a chance to make a commanding 3-1 series lead during the next game at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has spoken out about the California election robbery. California's slow-motion vote counting is reminding Americans of the disaster of the stolen 2020 presidential election, and President Trump is rightfully once again up in arms. In Los Angeles, Republican Spencer Pratt, who had been leading progressive councilwoman Nithya Raman in the race for the final runoff spot against Mayor Karen Bass, throughout the night, he took off to an early strong position. In fact, Raman even conceded on election night. Then, days after the polls closed, as waves of late-counted mail ballots rolled in from somewhere, Raymond suddenly surged past him by amassing a percentage of support that previously seemed unpredictable. Mathematicians tell me it is actually statistically impossible. By Monday evening, with 93% of the vote counted, Raymond, the radical left city council member, stood at 28.6% compared to Pratt's 25.8%, a swing large enough to erase Pratt's advantage, leaving roughly 22,000 votes between them. Democrat election officials want the public to accept that this is normal, but to Trump supporters, this pattern looks painfully familiar. Republican leads on election nights, followed by days or even weeks of mail ballot shenanigans and counting that move in one direction. The chances of almost 80+% of the late mail ballots being for the radical left city councilwoman are statistically impossible, but we're expected to believe it anyway. California's defenders point to signature checks, chain of custody rules, and equipment testing, all red herrings designed to prevent further scrutiny and investigation into how elections in the Golden State are really run. The state does not have mandated voter ID. In fact, voter ID is specifically illegal. The rolls are notoriously dirty, and why ballot harvesting is rampant it has been thoroughly documented. This creates a perfect storm, allowing for fraud. Pratt going head-to-head with Karen Bass, the current mayor, would have been a disaster for the political establishment, so they couldn't let that happen. Bass, by the way, says that her two political heroes are Mao Zedong and Fidel Castro, to give you some idea where she stands on the political spectrum. Voters simply cannot trust a system that takes weeks to count ballots and repeatedly replaces these late-breaking results that overwhelmingly benefit Democrats or leftists. President Trump's objection is not an attack on democracy. He's attempting to prevent attacks on democracy from the rigors. A massive federal investigation is needed into these fraudulent results. I hope Attorney General designate Todd Blanche will conduct such an investigation. The media and Kristen Welker of NBC are still reeling from her disastrous clash with President Donald Trump. This is the moment nobody wants to talk about. After 9 years of rallies, press conferences, and taped sit-downs, the press is now boxed into three choices every time Donald Trump sits across from them. And every one of those choices is potentially a nightmare for them. Option 1, keep pressing for evidence. Trump says, all I have to do is look, I listen to people. The anchor then demands court-level sourcing. Trump calls them crooked and walks off. The clip goes viral with Trump as the decisive one and the anchor as the mean-spirited aggressor. Network spent a travel budget to Wisconsin for a segment that in this case ended in 90 seconds. Option 2, accept for the frame and move on. Don't challenge the California election claims. Don't push back on 5 days and no winner. Let dirty elections stand without a follow-up. Audience sees the network validating the narrative. Every future anchor gets the same treatment because it worked. Or option 3, don't take the interview. Refuse to sit down entirely. Trump holds rallies, posts on Truth Social, sets the agenda anyway. Networks lose access, loses the clip, loses the audience. We traveled all the way to Wisconsin becomes impossible to say. The story becomes media too afraid to interview the president. So let that one sink in. There is no option 4. There is no clean exit. There is no we are right to ask the questions and he answered it. The media is showing a president who got a little bit angry in the rain and walked off from a barn roof interview in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. They're not showing you that every path forward for the press leads to the same outcome. Trump controls the frame, the clip, and the story. In this particular exchange, Welker yet again insisted that there is absolutely, positively no evidence of election fraud in the 2020 election, which is, of course, on the face of it, absurd at this point. There's not enough time in this program to go through all of the evidence of fraud, but just the statistical anomalies of, once again, in 3 states at 3 o'clock in the morning, 300,000 paper ballots that in Michigan at least and in Pennsylvania had never been folded in half and therefore never really mailed, showing up at the same time, pulling Joe Biden ahead, just one of the many examples. The other outrageous claim is that there's no evidence that January 6th was a setup, and specifically no evidence that police officers from the Capitol Hill Police Office or the FBI actually motioned individual protesters into the Capitol. When anybody can go online to virtually any of the on-site social media platforms and find videos that show exactly that. The big lie continues. The media will never give up, repeating over and over what has been thoroughly and completely disproved. Meanwhile, liberals are up in arms after a new State Department data has shown that every refugee admitted to the United States last month was a white South African. In May, all 599 refugees accepted into the country came from South Africa after enduring hardships from the black supremacist government lording over their once great country. Since October 1st of 2025, the U.S. has admitted 6,668 refugees, with 6,665 of them identified as white South Africans and just 3 from Afghanistan. Trump administration made it clear this policy is aimed primarily at Afrikaners and other victims of unjust discrimination and violence in their homelands. President Trump previously lowered the annual refugee cap to 7,500, a sharp break from the Biden-era limit of 125,000 overall. Left is already attacking the policy as racist. Anything they don't like is racist. But conservatives should say plainly what the media often refuses to admit. South African farmers and Afrikaner families have faced serious threats, include farm attacks, political hostility, outrageous violence, and growing concerns over property rights and safety, including murder. America cannot take in the world, but refugee policy should be based on real persecution, national interest, and careful vetting, not globalist guilt politics. For years, Democrats opened the doors to massive refugee admissions while dismissing Christians, farmers, Western aligned communities facing violence or discrimination abroad. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Don't go away because we'll be right back.
Roger Stone here. Your dollars are losing ground, but gold isn't. American Sovereign Bullion helps you protect your wealth through real, tangible assets. Through their nationwide wholesaler network, you get some of the best pricing on gold and silver delivered straight to your door. Since 1912, the U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to prove its strength. So call 844-272-2428. That's 844-272-2428. Or visit dyingdollar.com to request your free gold and silver guide. That's dyingdollar.com.
Fox News is now streaming live on Fox One. When it matters most, turn to the voices you trust. We go beyond the headlines, bringing you the stories you won't hear anywhere else. Live coverage, sharp analysis, real perspective. At home or on the go, stay connected when it counts. Stream Fox News on Fox One. Download today.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
It is a great, great person, Roger Stone.
The Stone Zone. June is Black Music Month. We don't just celebrate music, we feel it.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about the architects of hip-hop, you begin with Grandmaster Flash. Born Joseph Sadler in Barbados and raised in the Bronx, this man didn't just play records, he reinvented the turntable itself. Flash pioneered cutting, scratching, a quick mix theory, techniques that transformed DJs into performers and hip-hop into a movement. With the Furious Five, he gave the streets a voice, especially with The Message, a record that brought social reality crashing into popular music. Hall of Fame honors followed, but the real legacy? Every DJ who ever touched two turntables owes this man a debt. Grandmaster Flash helped turn block parties into a global culture.
Higher, baby. Get higher, baby. Get higher, baby. And don't ever come down.
Celebrating Black Music Month. Listen to this podcast now
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
One Tough Podcast with Bo Dietl.
Hey, Mayor Mondami, you want to listen to me? You should go back to Uganda for vacation to your multi-million-dollar house, you little smiley punk. Stay away from my 9/11 area. Nobody wants you near where the sacred ground is. You hear me, Mondami? I don't want to see you there.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
Here's Roger Stone.
And you're hopping back into the Stone Zone. The Trump administration is escalating its crackdown on immigration fraud, announcing Monday that it is seeking to revoke the citizenship of 17 naturalized U.S. citizens accused of lying, hiding criminal conduct, or otherwise abusing the path to American citizenship. Justice Department officials say this is the largest ever effort by the federal government to use its denaturalization powers. Those powers are not new. Federal law has long allowed the government to ask courts to strip citizenship from foreign-born individuals who obtained it through fraud or concealment. It's like Ilhan Omar, who should be asked exactly that. What is new is that President Trump is actually using the law as it should be used. The latest cases include individuals accused of or convicted of serious crimes, including child sex offenses, fraud schemes, false identification, money laundering, and immigration fraud. In the next 24 hours, I will launch a major report on the question of Ilhan Omar and whether she did, as I assert and document very carefully, marry her own brother in an effort to enter the United States illegally. Nowhere does it say that a member of Congress is immune from federal law. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be following that issue very closely. These new federal complaints argue that concealing criminal activity when applying for citizenship, while others allegedly failed to meet the basic requirements of good moral character, shows that they will throw you out of the country. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said the Justice Department will have a zero tolerance now for abuse of the naturalization process, warning that criminal aliens have lied about past crimes, including drug dealing, sexual predation, and fraud, will be tossed from the country. My question is a simple one. What about Congresswoman Ilhan Omar? If anybody should be tossed from the country, it is her. For some reason, those who have exposed her have been exposed to the worst kind of weaponization by the Biden administration, but I will be exposing all of that in the next 12
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities, so do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
Roger Stone, who's a one of the smartest political minds. Roger Stone was persecuted. People forget he's actually a brilliant political analyst.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Leading the news, Iran has shot down a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz, and President Donald Trump says they will pay. Last night, over the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway under which almost 20% of the world's energy must flow, the most important 21 miles of water on planet Earth, the Ayatollah's regime made a decision. They looked up at an American AH-64 Apache helicopter, 2 American soldiers inside patrolling international waters near the coast of Oman, and they pulled the trigger. At 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time on June 8th, that Apache, pardon me, I correct myself, I earlier said it was a Black Hawk, it was an Apache. That Apache helicopter went down into the dark waters of the Gulf, and for 2 agonizing orders, 2 American aviators floated in hostile seas while the world's most dangerous regime watched. Thank God, and thank the finest military on the face of Earth, those 2 pilots are alive tonight, safe and uninjured. And here is the part history will remember. They were pulled out of the water by an unmanned American drone boat, a 24-foot Corsair vessel operated by the Navy's Task Force 59. This is the first sea drone rescue in the history of warfare. While Tehran was playing with fire, American innovation here was saving American lives. Let that contrast sink in for a moment. So here's what we know. The U.S. Army AH-64 Apache attack was brought down over the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command initially called it an incident under investigation. Then President Trump, briefed by the military, confirmed it himself on his Truth social media platform. The Iranians shot it down. He said, The U.S. official says the investigation determined that Iranian drones struck the helicopter, although Washington has not yet declared whether the strike was intentional. I think we can figure that one out. This happened again off the coast of Oman, the choke point through which actually about a fifth of the world's oil must flow, and the waterway that Iran has effectively strangled since the war began in late February. There were, as I say, 2 U.S. Army aviators, both rescued roughly 2 hours after going down. Both, I'm happy to say now, perfectly safe. The Apache they flew is no ordinary aircraft. These helicopters are the tip of the spear when it comes to enforcing America's blockade on Iranian crude oil, the economic chokehold designed to drag Tehran to the negotiating table. The timing here is very key. Timing, my friends, is never an accident in geopolitics. The shootdown came one day after Israel and Iran exchanged direct fire for the first time since April 8th and the declared ceasefire, and mere hours before President Trump, leaving the NBA Finals game in New York, told reporters the United States and Iran were in the final stages of what would be a very, very good deal. A deal to end Iran's nuclear ambitions, a deal to reopen the strait, a deal, he said, that could be signed in 2 or 3 days. And what was Tehran's answer? A drone into an American helicopter in an attempt to kill 2 Americans. Iran's response? No claim of responsibility, no apology. Instead, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi took to X with a threat dressed up as advice, saying foreign forces near Iranian territory face constant risk from accidents and crossfire, that the best way to reduce the risk is for America to leave the region, and that while Iran prefers the language of diplomacy, it speaks other languages as well. That's not only a threat, it's an insult. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not diplomacy. That is like a mob boss telling you it would be a shame if something happened to your helicopter. Make no mistake about what this was. This was not an accident. This was yet another test. The mullahs have read the old playbook: provoke, deny, negotiate. Bleed America with 1,000 small cuts and bet that Washington blinks. They ran that play on weak administrations like Joe Biden's for 40 years, and unfortunately it worked. But here's what the regime apparently forgot. Donald Trump's red line has been public for months. He has told his own aides he would consider restarting a full war if Iran kills American service members. Nobody, thank God, died last night, but as one analyst put it, that was not for a lack of effort on Tehran's part. So why pull the trigger? 3 possibilities, and they may all be true at once. 1, Iran wants to test whether Trump's red line is real. 2, Iran wants to humiliate him, forcing him to absorb an attack before signing this peace deal. Or 3, the hardliners in Tehran simply want the war to continue. Whatever their motive, they have made a catastrophic miscalculation about the man in the Oval Office. The president's words on Truth Social were unmistakable. He confirmed the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters patrolling the strait. He confirmed both pilots were safe and uninjured, and then came the sentence that should keep Tehran awake at night. Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack. Must, of necessity, respond. Fox News, reporting from the White House, suggests the president is inclined to order something big. So what are the scenarios? Let's watch this closely. Potential scenario 1, the calibrated strike. America hits a high-value Iranian military target, the kind of precision punishment we saw earlier this month on Quelm Island, sends the message and returns to the table. The deal survives, the strait reopens, peace through strength, executed to perfection. Scenario 2, escalation. Iran responds to the response. Missiles fly at American bases as they did in Kuwait. The April ceasefire, already hanging by a thread after the Israel-Iran exchange of yesterday, collapses entirely. The war that has already shaken the global economy, spiked energy prices, and driven up the cost of food on your table comes roaring back at full strength. And then there's scenario 3, unlikely. Tehran folds. The regime, staring down a blockade that is strangling its oil revenue, and a president who does not bluff, signs the deal. The nuclear program ends. The The state reopens immediately upon signing, as the president demands, and this shoot-down becomes a mere footnote, the regime's last desperate act of defiance before capitulation. Still believe the president holds the cards. The blockade is choking Tehran's treasury. The deal is sitting on the table. Iran can sign it, or Iran can find out what American resolve actually looks like. This is not an abstraction, my friends. This is your gas prices, your grocery bill. The 100-day war has already made the basics more expensive for every working family in America. The fastest way to end it is not through weakness. It's through strength. It is a president willing to say what he means and do what he says. 2 American pilots came home safe last night, plucked from the sea by a robot boat that didn't exist as a rescue tool until America built it. The question now is whether the regime in Tehran is smart enough to come to the table or arrogant enough to learn the hard way. Stay tuned. This is far from over. Now, I know Donald Trump. I've known him for 50 years. He is not a man to cross. He is anxious to end this war, but to do so on equitable terms, but never underestimate his strength and his resolve. We'll be following this story very closely. Meanwhile, the high-tech firm Meta is making a major bet on American workers, and this time it's not about another university pipeline or another diversity seminar. It's about skilled trades. On Monday, Meta announced America's Workforce Academy, calling it the largest private sector commitment to the skilled trades with a job guarantee in American history. The program is set to launch in 2026 at pilot locations in Louisiana, Ohio, Indiana, and Texas, backed by an initial $115 million first-year investment. The academy will be free for participants who will be paid while they learn. Graduates will earn nationally recognized credentials through the National Center for Construction Education and Research, along with an American Workforce Certificate designed to move them across employers and industries. Reminds me when I was growing up, my parents told me that I should be a plumber or an electrician or a wallboard man. Those guys made good money, my dad said. Instead, I chose politics. That always confused my parents until the day I introduced my father to Ronald Reagan in Norwalk, Connecticut at a rally. And then he understood why I had taken my life in a different direction. Here, more importantly, Meta says every graduate will be guaranteed a job. This is the kind of workforce development that common sense Americans have long called for. Practical training, no college debt, real credentials, and a direct path to gainful employment. Mike Rowe, a longtime advocate for the trades, praised the program, saying workers will be paid to learn, face zero cost, earn fast certification, and have a guaranteed job waiting when they get out. The announcement comes as Meta restructures around artificial intelligence after laying off about 10% of its global workforce and moving thousands of remaining employees into AI-related initiatives. Now, AI may eliminate some white-collar jobs, but it will also require electricians, fiber installers, building and construction workers, and technicians. So Meta's move makes business sense and should be sustainable. Still, we should not just trust big tech. The only reason that Meta is making these moves is because President Trump and his MAGA agenda have pressured them to do so. We must keep the pressure on and ensure that Meta and all the other tech giants fulfill their commitments to America. Meanwhile, another liberal activist federal judge has stepped in to block President Trump's immigration agenda, this time striking down his $100,000 fee on H-1B visa petitions, a policy designed to protect American workers and stop corporations from using foreign labor as a cheap substitute. U.S. District Judge Leo Sorokin ruled on June 8th that the fee was unlawful, claiming it amounted to a tax that Congress had not authorized. He also said the Trump administration violated the Administrative Procedure Act by putting the policy in place without a public comment period. The result is another incomprehensible decision from the federal bench, a judge acknowledging the president has broad authority to restrict the entry of non-citizens while still blocking one of the tools Trump chooses to enforce that very authority. President Trump's announced the fees as part of his effort to reform the H-1B system which has long been criticized as a pipeline for replacing American professionals with foreign workers who work for cheaper and displace our native workforce. The fee would have forced companies to think twice before reaching overseas instead of hiring qualified Americans here at home. It's common sense, but Massachusetts and 19 other Democrat-led states sued, and now one judge has wiped out the policy nationwide. Big tech firms and other chronic exploiters of the H-1B visas are no doubt very happy at this news, but this is becoming, sadly, a familiar pattern. Voters elect Trump to secure the border, restore immigration sanity, and put American workers first. Then activist judges turn around, spit on the will of the people. Well, this fight is not over. An appeal is currently pending, but the fact that we have to put on these demeaning song and dance routines in front of these power-drunk, robed judges is an outrage. Andrew Jackson would not have taken this. In my opinion, neither should President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the Trump administration pledges to put ICE agents in the streets of New York City. The Trump administration is preparing to send a major surge of ICE officers into New York City after Governor Kathy Hochul signed a sweeping anti-ICE package that critics say protects illegal immigrants and makes the city less safe. Border czar Tom Homan told Fox and Friends on Monday the New Yorkers are about to see more ICE agents than you have ever seen in New York City. Homan said he had just reviewed the operational plans and made clear the deployment is coming. His message of common sense is simple. If New York blocks safe immigration arrests around county jails, federal agents will have to go into neighborhoods instead. This is the public safety point Democrats keep ignoring. When ICE can work with sheriffs and arrest criminal illegal aliens inside facilities, one officer can make the arrest safely. But when sanctuary politicians interfere, ICE has to send in entire teams into communities to find people who do not want to be found. The governor calls it a protection from federal overreach, but in actuality, it is destroying public safety for the purposes of scoring partisan political points. Homan has warned New York that this would happen. Now he says he's keeping that promise. The Trump administration's position is clear. Illegal immigrants who break the law will not get special protection just because New York Democrats want a political fight with Washington. The Trump administration will not blink and will not allow lawlessness to reign supreme in the Big Apple. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to The Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
This is The Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
He likes politics and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone. Where's Roger?
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is The Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's The Stone Zone.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. A Republican-led House Oversight Committee report is exposing Minnesota Democrats for allowing one of the largest welfare fraud scandals in American history out of cowardly fear of being seen as racist. The report says fraud concerns in Minnesota's social service programs reached senior officials in Governor Tim Walz's office, as well as that of Attorney General Keith Ellison, as early as 2019 and 2020. But instead of aggressive action to enforce the law, the committee says state leaders delayed, avoided, or softened their response while taxpayer money kept flowing and the American people continued to be bilked. At the center of the report is the Feeding Our Future scandal, where more than 110 people have been charged so far and over 60 have been convicted or pleaded guilty in a scheme that siphoned off money meant to feed children. According to the committee, officials had authority to suspend questionable payments, but they failed to act decisively at all. The report found that fears of being accused of racism played the major role. One Minnesota education official reported said she had been warned not to do anything that could be seen as targeting diverse communities, even while fraud concerns were mounting. Somalis have been deified by liberals who kept letting them into their communities, alleviating their original sin of white guilt. Instead, they're invited parasites to eat them from within. The report also says Ellison, a radical Muslim himself, who's an open supporter of Antifa, domestic terrorism, met with individuals tied to the Feeding Our Future in 2021, and the campaign donations later came from affiliates to him now connected to these very criminal proceedings. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer called it a stunning failure, saying that the Walsh administration failed the taxpayers. Democrats got high on their own supply. They said that multiculturalism was the future and that diversity was our strength. But now we're seeing the fruits of this new system, and they are foul indeed. It's time to send the illegal foreigners back to where they belong, either out of the country or to jail, and put their crooked enterprises out of commission. Meanwhile, we spoke yesterday extensively about the Southern Poverty Law Center. They are yet again today under fire on Capitol Hill after their interim CEO, Brian Fair, refused to back down from the group's decision to label Turning Point USA as a hate group. During a House Judiciary Committee hearing, Republican Congressman Darrell Issa pressed Mr. Fair directly, asking whether the Southern Poverty Law Center would recant its attacks on figures like Dr. Alveda King and the late Charlie Kirk. Fair would not give a yes. Instead, he said the Southern Poverty Law Center would continue to expose hate and extremism, even though we now know that they were subsidizing organizations like the Ku Klux Klan and other white extremist groups. You see, if there is no right extremism, then there's no ability for them to raise money to fight right-wing extremism. So they created white-wing extremism by funding informants and funding extremist organizations. This is what is known as a scam. Turning Point USA was added to the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map in 2025, with the organization accusing TPS-USA, that's Charlie Kirk's group, of promoting fear and defending what it called white-dominated, male supremacist Christian order. I ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center list several times simply because, well, I'm a conservative Republican. Republicans also pressed Mr. Fair yesterday on why the Southern Poverty Law Center targets Christian and conservative groups, refusing to list violent left-wing movements such as Antifa. Fair argued that Antifa is an ideology, not a group, an often debunked talking point used by apologists for left-wing terrorism. We saw what happened in the Antifa riots at the end of Donald Trump's term. Who paid for the bricks? Who paid for the flatbed trucks? Who paid for the buses? Who paid for the lawyers who immediately bailed radicals out of jail after they were arrested? No, Antifa is an organization, and it's a terrorist organization at that. I'm Roger Stone. Thank you for joining us today in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
On the biggest stage in the world, FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes with them. Not anymore. With FanDuel Super Sub, if your player's subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. If your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in it until the final whistle. Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKY. KYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.